Hey guys, what is up? What is up? Welcome to Brickstars as we continue to look at Bricklink Designer Series 10. Again, an amazing series, lots of great designs. We recently put out 2 polls on our YouTube page asking which theme in general people liked, and Castle, kind of not surprisingly, was the most popular, and that got us thinking, what kind of video should we do for the Castle lineup? And a majority of people thought we should just narrow it down to 20 picks instead of kind of going through each one or top ones with each faction and so on and so forth. So that's what we're doing in this video. We're going to be taking a look at the top 20 castle sets that honestly, I mean, we picked them, but if I was to do the list again, there's a high chance that I would probably pick 15 different ones even. There's so many great designs, and I was actually really surprised that a lot of the designers on our previous videos have commented, and so it's nice to see that they're watching our videos. We really appreciate that. For everyone that is watching, again, thank you. But please don't take offense if you're not in this lot of 20. It just, you know, as we were going through it, some stuck. We'll go through why we picked the ones we did, but it was very, very difficult to narrow this down to 20, as honestly, there's a ton of great submissions. So great job to everyone. So we'll try and go through the 20 in no particular order here, and then near the end of the video, we're going to try and choose perhaps the 5 top castle sets that we think have a chance at being a good chance of being picked as the winners. So let's kick things off with the Stone Spire Citadel by Brickdude 8. Beautiful set. Why did we pick this one as opposed to some others? Well, I've talked about this before, and that balance between landscape and set, I think this designer did a perfect job. We have just enough rock work and then a very magnificent looking castle. And what I like about this one is the dark red colors throughout. So in line with the Griffin Knights, they kind of have some of their custom flags and banners throughout, which I think is a really nice touch. And it's different than a lot of the other castles we've seen in recent years. So one thing I tried to do throughout picking these 20 is finding sets that are almost different and unique, so that we're not getting the same thing every time, because honestly a lot of the castle sets do have a similar look to them. So definitely when we went through the 20, we tried to pick sets that were a bit more unique or different, just in thinking that maybe that's a higher likelihood to get picked. So anyway, you can see some of the details they've got here. Every room is packed with details, and we get a lot of minifigures. So what a great way to build a Griffin Knight army, and we even get a couple Serpent Knights. So this set really stood out to me also because of this kind of detail in front here. I love when designers get creative and can kind of use bricks to make a detailed centerpiece like this. And then they've included a nice amount of reddish brown throughout the build between the windows and this wood structure and the railings here. I think it gives the overall castle a pretty interesting vibe. And again, I do like that it can be shown in wide format, but also condensed into a smaller format. So great job by Brickdude 8 with the Stone Spire Citadel. And then next up, we have the White Mare Watch Castle. Mocker Mommy, I think, had 4 or 5 submissions here that honestly, all of them were top notch in this wave. This one in particular stood out to us because, like I said earlier, as far as uniqueness goes, this is a castle that I haven't really seen anything like this in the past in terms of focusing on a color other than gray. And I think as someone who has a lot of castle sets and a display shelf with castle sets, this is something that would really stand out because it's so different than the other castle sets, and I love that. I also do love the fact that the terrain is very minimal here, in the sense there's not a ton of rock work. The focus is really on the build and the castle, and all 4,000 parts pretty much went to that. So that's awesome. And then when we look at these details, between the snot building techniques, the shield placement, the interesting roof texture, these wooden columns, like look at the way the windows arc and then taper in. Beautiful building techniques. I think it would be an awesome set to build, an awesome set to display. They've included some sand blue here, which I think is always welcome in the castle world. And really, as far as castle sets go, I mean, it's tough to beat this, honestly. So I think every other designer too would probably agree with me that Marker Mommy has really brought out their A game, and this is truly flawless. So we have some stables here, a well, and you can see the Horse Knights branding throughout the castle. Here they've put kind of a brick built shield, which I love, and then the color blue and navy and touches of gold throughout as well, or yellow. I think that's really cool. And then the individual little rooms are of course packed with detail. They are a little bit tight compared to some of the other castles, but honestly, for someone like myself who would mostly have this as a display piece, I don't mind that. I think you've got a bit of detail, but how it looks from the outside is what I'm most concerned about. And then, like, again, these brick built centerpieces, I think they look great, and I think Marker Mommy's done this on a couple sets, so it's cool to see that kind of design feature carry on throughout. So great job with the White Mare watch. Next up, we've got the Wizard's Tower by Zeagle0802. This is a design that I think I've seen in previous waves, and I believe the designers tweaked it or refined it or changed it a bit, but the general shape, having this kind of crooked tower and this tree throughout, is fairly consistent. And you can see the amount of effort this designer's put in to explaining this set, to putting in details and play features is amazing. And the main reason we picked this set is because a lot of times when I look at sets, I think to myself, okay, you know, the price point of these, especially larger sets, is not cheap, obviously. And so I think, can I order parts and build something similar, maybe more to my style, maybe more in line with my collection? And that's kind of a determining factor for me. This is a set where honestly, I don't think I'd be able to buy parts and make anything quite like this, between the different angles and the structural supports and everything. So I'm really curious how this is built, and I think it would be very fun and interesting to build a set like this. And then of course the different details and lore that come with it would be awesome. And as a display piece, I think it looks really cool. It's, you know, got a nice color balance, the white, the beige, the brown, the blue, the gray, everything a castle set kind of has, and it's built up a bit, so it's got a fair bit of height on it. And as someone who's a fan of Magisto, I would personally mock this and make this Magisto's tower. So but that's just myself. I think the characters that the designer has included are awesome, and the fact that they've made them as unique as possible and then given them names and added some lore is really awesome. So great job to Zeagle0802. Next up, the Snowstorm Inn by Yasker 2024. Okay, so this set we picked because it's on the smaller side compared to a lot of the others, and I love that. I think I've talked about it before. Having a set that's smaller is more budget friendly, but also I think a lot of times it requires very detailed building techniques, and you can't really you know, get away with a lot of things. So every piece here is strategically placed, and on top of that, I just love the detail and intricacy of this build, and the fact that it's a snow scene, which we don't see a ton of, but I think the landscape and the snow on the roof looks really good. And then this custom built sign I think is very clever way to make kind of like this tavern inn sign. And you can see everything is just beautifully detailed. The ice, the railing here, the horses tied up, the snow details, the rock work, and inside it's very tight and cramped, which is what you'd expect from a place like this. When I think of, you know, the dancing pony, the prancing pony, dancing pony from Lord of the Rings, that scene, how tight that inn is, how dark and, you know, kind of lit by candles inside. That's the vibes I get from this. And I do like that this would integrate very nicely into the medieval town scale wise. Even the stairway, the door entrance, the brickwork, the roof, I think it's all fits very nicely in that scale. So I also think it probably would be easy enough to mod it if you wanted to get rid of the snow, and have the roof maybe match more of the medieval town scene in your particular display piece. So really, really great job with the Snowstorm Inn. Again, another one that I think would be really awesome to build. Next up, the Festival Games by MD Builds. This was one of the trickier ones to pick because there's a couple tournament joust type sets, and we wanted to have a bit of variety, so we challenged ourselves to kind of narrow it down between them, and honestly all of them are fantastic. This one we picked for the main reason that I think this added building and castle structure is something that I think would look pretty epic on a shelf, on a display shelf. Not that the other ones wouldn't, but I think this one is a bit more substantial in that respect, although I do love the color and the brightness of one of the other ones. So I've talked about it in a previous video, but anyway, I mean, again, tough to choose. Like I said, if I was to do this video over again and pick another 20, it's very likely that I'd, you know, potentially 15 of the sets could switch. So, but this designer, I think, did a fantastic job giving us this building that kind of reminds me of the original medieval market village vibe, combined with the original joust set. And you can see the build techniques, the detail is just fantastic. I love how the area here kind of bumps out a bit, so you have a bit more room and there's a lavish feast going on there, and then you kind of get a couple different areas that you combine, and each of them individually looks spectacular. And then we do get a couple different factions, so that's another reason why I really love this set, is between the Horse Knights, Serpent Knights, Kraken, Griffin Knights, we kind of get it all. And if you're someone like us who has more castle factions in our collection, the sky's kind of the limit in terms of expanding this scene. So really cool shot here, how we have the knights coming in, and look at that clever technique used to build kind of custom barding. Of course, if given the option to have Lego barding, that would also be good, but I think this actually looks pretty cool. And you can see they have a little bit of a tree here. I like the use of the olive green colors. Honestly, great set overall. There's a bit of a training area here, an archery area. Yeah, what a great build by MD Builds. And next up, another one by Marker Mommy. Like I said, they've got a couple in the castle lineup, so we've chosen the Scarlet Bastion, another one that I think uniqueness wise, the dark red stands out. I've talked about this set in the past, and for me it kind of gives me vibes of Redwall, if those of you remember the Heroic Mouse books and cartoon too. That's kind of what I grew up with. I think this looks awesome. Again, nice balance of rock work to castle, intricate built details, and they've almost got it down to a science between, you know, the stonework and the snot techniques and balancing all that, and kind of mixing in non-brick structures throughout. I think it looks great. And obviously the centerpiece on this one is this kind of wood-built ladder system that I think is really unique and looks great. So yeah, I mean, this one, I'm sure you've all seen it. It's no doubt one of the more refined builds, and I think the dark red again would just look so good. And the other thing that's nice here is they've chosen kind of the yellow autumn type tree color, which I think contrasts beautifully with the dark red. I think it looks very nice. Normally I prefer green, but in this case I think going with the yellow and orange was the right move. And yeah, you can see they've updated this design from previous waves to include the new pigeon, which is nice. And then the interior, again, I mean, all of these sets are going to have great interior details, use of different angles. You can see there's some hidden elements here, a gem, a rat. Yeah, they've kind of thought of everything. You get some stables, a little bakery stand. And I do actually like how these roses look. They kind of pop and stand out as well. So really great job. Again, Makromami, no surprise there. So moving on to Valley Castello by Hallowed Brick, another Griffin Knight themed castle. And just so you guys know, when we did this, we literally wrote out all the sets and went through them and highlighted them and tried to pick and get through it. So there was a lot of kind of thought that did go on behind this. And so this is one that we picked. Again, haven't really seen something like this between the terracotta roof style, the custom banner, very kind of Roman looking. And I mean, I didn't really read the description on all of these, but maybe that is the noted in there as an inspiration. You can see there's some different shields here that would likely be sticker pieces, of course, but they look pretty cool. And just the overall vibe of this set, I think, is really nice. So between this kind of arched, you know, stone entranceway, the corners with the dark orange coloring there, different. Even though the castle is gray, there's definitely a lot more color here than you know, some of the other submissions. So that's why this one stood out to us. And I think the interior has some nice areas as well. I do like this wrench piece being used for the windows. I do wish Lego gave us this one in kind of a standard light bluish gray color to work a little bit better, but nonetheless, I think it looks really good. And this is a cool shot, kind of how you can see from the inside looking up what the Lego minifigures see, if you will. So there's some play features in here as well that you can turn and open things, move things. So I think building in play features is tricky. As someone who builds mocks, I can definitely appreciate the effort that goes on behind that. So great job by Hallowed Brick. And here we go, some Kraken sets. Rudo Balco with the first one. Kraken was a very popular faction to build with, and honestly, I think each designer kind of did something different. This particular set we picked because one thing that I like about this set is the ability to expand it. And in the previous wave, or one of the previous waves, the Seaside Castle, I can't remember which wave now, I thought it was a fantastic build. We have it, and I've actually begun the process of buying parts to expand it further, because I think it's kind of very modular based, and especially when you kind of display it the long way, depending on your shelf size, if you have some room to fill in, it's nice to be able to expand it. And this is one that I think works really nicely for that. You can kind of see how it's in modules and sections. So yeah, very customizable. And then I love when it's closed in, how compact but detailed and defined the spaces are. And to work with angles like this and have everything lined up is very, very tricky. So props to the designer on that. You can see we get a couple sections that every castle kind of has: a kitchen, a weapon storage, a blacksmith. There's kind of a leader's office, if you will. And then I love the use of these new small ladder pieces, much more compact than a big ladder. And then some customized weapons there, I think look great, very fitting for the Kraken Knights. And you know, a lot of the Kraken Knights sets do have this kind of piratey combination to them, which I think makes sense and works really well. And in this case, you can see we get this side build of Kraken attacking them. So it'd be an interesting piece to put in and display as well. And you can just see the amount of detailed furniture builds that we get. They all look great, and a ton of minifigures as well. So great job to Rudo Balco. I love the use of dark gray instead of light gray for the Kraken. Next up, the Deep Forest Headquarters by PK_. I talked about this set in another video, and I believe the designer even commented that now we don't have the Forestman figures in the Pick-a-Brick world, really, so they've kind of mocked it and made it work. Obviously, for me, I'd be filling this with my forest men and women, but I do love the detail and the treehouse build between the look to this, and just kind of how it has like stone stairs coming up through the tree, the towers angled, the curves of the kind of balcony here, and overall vibe and color of it just looks really, really good to me. I like the use of the bright green, the regular green, touches of red, the brown and cream, really well balanced. And again, this is a very neat building technique. I'd be curious to see how that was executed. And then we get some Serpent Knights as well. So there's a bit of storytelling and lore going on here. So really, really cool to see something like this. And again, for me, it's clearly something that I would easily mod to add some Forstmen. But you can see even using the Griffin Knight's torso with some green does work. So great job to PK_ on a very intricate and detailed kind of Forestman castle themed treehouse. Okay, here we have the Northern Watch Fortress by Score_P. You know, there was not a ton of Serpent Knight submissions that we saw. What is that, maybe 7 or 8? And this one stood out to me because I think it was the biggest castle of the Serpent Knights, but also this yellow and purple color scheme I think really pops. And I love that they used purple for the roof. It's something I haven't seen a lot of other castle sets do. And it kind of gives me an old Black Knights, Dark Knights, Black Knights castle vibe between the black and the light gray, so kind of vintage Lego style, that I think looks really good here. And they've done a great job with building up these towers and this kind of big roof on there. And then the inside also, again, large areas. So some of the castles, like I talked about, had smaller areas, which I didn't mind. In this case, you've got some bigger spaces, so definitely a bit easier to play with in a way. And then we get this nice little side build where the Kraken Knights are camping out, and I actually love this. I think they did a fantastic job building up these tents, some storage, the terrain, and beautiful building technique on the pine tree, something that I'm probably going to have to borrow for one of my mocks, so thank you for that. And I do love when designers are able to make these kind of different campfire type arrangements. So in this case, it looks like they've done an interesting technique to put this hook here and be able to hang that pot. That's really clever. So great job there. And we do even get the new Ghost minifigure, which I love. Yeah, some more play features. And then again, the use of the color black, but with pops of yellow and purple, I think work really good. And you can see we get a ton of Serpent Knights as well. So yeah, great looking set by Score_P. Next up, the Snowdrift Stable by Grids. This is one that we picked because we wanted to throw in some smaller sets. I'm not going to pick the 20 biggest sets. Like I said, building a smaller set sometimes is very challenging. I like this one for, I wouldn't say simplicity, but more so that it kind of aligns more with Lego's detail of builds. What I find is in the Bricklink Designer Series, a lot of times the mocks are very detailed, which, as nice as that does look, I've mentioned this before, when I put that on a shelf beside some of my other sets, it kind of makes them look not as good, or not as detailed, I should say. And this one seems to match the level of detail with Lego, so it would integrate very nicely. It's perhaps a bit more detailed, but it's there, close enough. I do love the color of the roof, the building technique, the stables, the sign, and again, the size of it. I think it's very nicely built to scale with the rest of the Lego stuff. And you can see some interesting things on the horses there between these backpacks. We get a couple horse knights, serpent knights, a couple medieval peasant figures. So really nicely done build, and at under 2,000 parts, I think that's an awesome use of parts. So good job to this designer. Now moving on to the Joust Medieval Tournament, another one by Marker Mommy. I mean, how can you not include this one in the top list? Beautifully built centerpiece, the sides, the tents. They've brought back, like I said, this kind of brick built centerpiece. Just a fantastic looking build. I love the mix of dark brown and reddish brown, the roof technique, and I could just imagine, you know, if by chance this and the Whitemare watch set get picked, they do integrate perfectly. So the roof technique carries throughout, the architecture carries throughout. So it'd be interesting if Lego did decide to do that. And then again, the use of this light blue color scheme, very reminiscent of both the medieval market village and the medieval joust set. And then we do get a couple peasant figures coming in here. You can see there's a little bit of a keg, there's some fans, there's a jousting, the knights jousting there. And surprised that there's no saddle on this guy now that I see it. Of course, barding would be awesome, but also a little bit of a bakery there. And yeah, again, the terrain isn't too crazy. Most of the parts are going into the build, which again, I'm okay with. So easily removable roofs, so you can kind of scatter the minifigures and the royals who are watching from up above there. And then some really nice built tent designs. I think that looks great and adds a lot of color to both the set and as a display piece. And I do like that they used, you know, different building techniques on all the tents to kind of give each faction their own personality. So that's really awesome. Yeah, great job overall on this one. Here's another medieval tournament. So I know I said I tried to narrow it down between one or two of them, but that was tricky to do. So I've also included this one. Again, I love the colors, I love the tent builds, and I love how each of the modules is detachable, so you can kind of scatter it and display it whichever way works for you. And I do think this roof color makes it look very riche and regal. You've got a nice tree here, and I do love, there's probably a proper term for whatever this thing in the middle is called. I think they did a fantastic job here between adding the colors and a little bit of the flag detail and everything. So that's really awesome. Yeah, just great looking medieval tournament set that could tie in really with any castle display. And I do like that they've included also, you know, some practice ranges, armory station, a little bit of a signpost there. Yeah, all the little details, a little bit of a food stand, and there's even some stands for fans to sit. So great job with this one by Hello Zol. Next up, the training ground by Brick Project. This is one that I think has been pretty popular online. We've chosen it because, again, it's unique, but also more than being a unique concept, it's a unique shape. So this kind of rounded shape, I haven't seen a whole lot, and I think the tower stands out. The side here, the different colored shields are beautiful, and then you can see from the outside between the wood and the stables and the little ramp and the trees, everything looks top notch. And then they've included some of their own branding here. I'm sure there's a story for what this faction is and stuff. But of course, if you wanted to change this to be your White Horse Knights or Serpent Knights or whatever, it could very easily be done. So you see they've kind of labeled what the different sections are. And then inside, of course, we've got, you know, weapons, we've got a training area, an archery area, an area to onlook, and then banners and different colors throughout. So very, very cool looking set, and one that I think fits the winners type set in the designer series. So great job to Brick Project. Next up, the Skeleton Fortress by Terama. This one we picked because obviously it's its own faction, so they're not limited to the Griffin Knights or the Kraken Knights. They've kind of taken things into their own hands. And I've picked this one. There's something nostalgic about it for me when I see, you know, the black, the purple, the green here. It kind of reminds me of, you know, cartoons from the late 80s, early 90s. And it's so different but works so well. And the other thing, I can honestly imagine a set like this being a theme for Lego itself. So I had to reward that, and I think, you know, this set is worthy of being in the top 20 discussion. And then using the Serpent Knight's torso, the black and purple, to carry out throughout, I think works really well. And then you've got some, you know, fantasy type elements, kind of like a video game. So very, very cool. And you can see all these minifigures kind of look different, even though they're just a simple skeleton. They're all unique, and what a cool brick built skeleton dragon. So great job. Obviously this front face piece to look like a skeleton, the whole tower, very detailed, very compact, very well built. So congrats to Terama. Next up, another one by Makromami. Oh man, people are going to say that I'm only including their sets, but honestly, again, another beautiful one, the Emerald Abyss, a prison castle. What's not to love? The colors, the detail, the size, everything I think looks very cool, and it's a great concept, you know, to kind of have prison almost like an Alcatraz where they have their prisoners, and the pirate vibe definitely coming out throughout on this one. You can see between the fish, the sea, the Kraken. Obviously it's kind of like on a rock cove surrounded by water. I think it looks really good. And then the roof technique, the ability to use that dark green and teal throughout to show that it's the Kraken. And then I do love this, the way the shield or, you know, stickered element will get held up by chains. I think that looks really cool. So very intricate build, very detailed build, lots of, you know, again, snot building techniques and play features as well. So, you know, I haven't touched a lot on that in this series because for me, I mostly look at it as a display thing. But the fact that designers put in these play features, I think is awesome. And, you know, like I said, it's challenging to do. And you can see the assortment of minifigures that we get. And looking at this interior, the rooms look great. I love this. You can almost kind of feel the humidity and the smell of this dungeon. It's, you know, there's water there. It's dark. It's gloomy. It's moldy, probably. Definitely not a place you want to be. And then up above, you know, it kind of shows that the Kraken do have some riches, you know, scattered throughout. But yeah, what else can one say on a great looking build? The Emerald Abyss. And then another great Kraken build, this one by Brickhammer, the Driftwood Keep. You know, Brickhammer's had some amazing stuff in the past, and I was really hoping to see, I know they did a medieval village of sorts a couple series ago, but nonetheless, it's nice to see the Kraken Driftwood Keep make a return. And I've talked about this set before and how I think it looks honestly perfect between the rock work, the angles. I like the height of this one, how it has, you know, different stories going on throughout. And then I love this build here where you have kind of a dock. You come up some stairs, you go up, there's this angled kind of lookout point, different, you know, castle elements, and it's honestly different than a lot of the other castles, between, you know, a focus of kind of the wooden structures up top, stonework, and then the rocks below. And then we do get a side build in this kind of Kraken boat, which I think is awesome to include. It just adds, you know, a lot of play features to the set. This was an interesting build where they kind of feed it to the Kraken. So look at the amount of minifigures that you get here. It looks like we get 11 Kraken Knights, a couple Griffin Knights, and a great looking boat. Honestly, not huge, but fit for purpose, and it looks great. You can kind of move some things around and have a nice little play feature. And then there's also a little side boat there where the Griffin Knights are maybe trying to escape, or maybe they're coming to do some business. You know, you can make up the stories as you go. So great job to Brickhammer, and hopefully, I know they've submitted stuff in the past, a very, very talented designer. I do hope they make the cut this time around. Then we have Watchers of the Midnight Sea by Pepe Frost. What a cool looking build. I've talked about it before as well. I loved kind of this building technique on these columns, on the tower, on kind of this fantastical looking portal. And you can see even the building technique here for the wooden structure. It's different than what a lot of the other designers are doing. And if I'm not mistaken, this is one that's also appeared in the past, but I think they've made some tweaks and changes to it. Obviously, as new parts become available, and designers, I'm sure, can go back and tweak things. But they've done a great job here between this kind of brickwork and angle. I'd be really curious to see how that's done. And then I always love when builds have kind of these forest log type walls. I think that looks great. Huge weapon here for the Kraken Knights. And yeah, just an overall very gloomy looking set, which is kind of the vibe and expectation that I get from the Kraken Knights. So I think they've done a great job of doing that there. And you can see even between some of these kind of more fantastical looking figures, I think it fits the part. So great job to Pepe Frost. Then we have the Haven Stronghold by Zarek, another Kraken Knights build. This one I love because it's got a bit of a bigger boat. The front piece of that boat I think looks great. And again, I love the use of the dark bluish gray like one of the other mocks. We've got this big flame here, and then the use of dark green here I think works really, really well. And just look at how epic this scene is. Like, the boat, it's not huge, but still fits a ton of minifigures. And you know, they've got a little bit of a loading area here, and I do like this building technique for kind of the turrets and, you know, castle walls. I think that looks great. So really, really well done. And you can see you can take things apart, expand it. That's another reason, like the other set, we picked this one because if you didn't want to extend it or expand it, I think it'd be relatively easy to do so. So awesome job to Zarek on the Haven Stronghold. And then last but certainly not least, we've picked the Medieval Theater by It's Just a Name. So this one is significantly smaller than a lot of the other builds we've picked at under 1,000 parts. But honestly, an idea like this being so unique, and honestly so expandable and versatile, I had to include it. So you see we get a horse knight here, but they've included costumes for the other knights, and I think that's just brilliant. So you can kind of, honestly, if Lego picks this set and tweaks it, you could almost get one of each castle knight. That'd be a nice way to get those into your collection. I think the build looks really cool. You get a little bit of a food stand. There's some props here. And honestly, if I'm building a medieval village or a medieval town or a big castle, I think it'd be really cool to include this within such a build or such a display piece. So I do love what they've done here, and, you know, perfect amount of detail. And then for me, you know, the fact that it can actually be moved is great, but I love the build of this green dragon Rudolph. Obviously very reminiscent of the original Lego green dragon, but I think it looks very cute and very fitting for the scene. So it's a little bit different. Again, it's not just castle sets that you know, we're looking to pick. It's stuff like this that I think would be a welcome addition to most castle collections. So that's our pick for the 20. And now if we quickly go and open up the top 5, if you will, how does one choose 20? How does one then narrow it down to 5? Well, real quick, the training ground, the festival games, the Driftwood Keep, the White Mare Watch, and the medieval joust. I think these are, you know, between the details and what's included and the refinement of the builds, I think they're honestly top-notch sets, and they'd be instant purchases for me personally, and I think they'd probably be quick buys for a lot of other people. But again, tons of great sets. You know, I wish I could do a 2-3 hour video kind of highlighting all of them, and we might, you know, our poll seemed to indicate people would be interested in kind of a more detailed breakdown of a lot of the other sets, but that was our attempt to narrow it down to the 20. So thank you guys for watching. As always, let us know in the comments what you think about the list that we've picked, which sets we've missed, which ones you think would make the top 5 or get selected. And yeah, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.